Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Board of Trustees of the San Mateo Union High School District, and it's 7:05 per my cell phone.
You're doing great.
Here. This is a meeting of the San Mateo Union High School District Board of Trustees. I am calling the open session to order. Today is February 27th. Roll call, Trustee Chavez,
Present.
Trustee Jacobson,
Present.
Trustee Land,
Present.
Trustee Andrade Zuniga,
Presente.
and I am present. Tonight, we will have a team from Hannah Interpreting as our Spanish interpreters. For those who would like to attend the meeting virtually in Spanish, that option is available. Hannah Interpreting, would you please communicate that for us this evening? Thank you.
Of course. In order to provide language access, this meeting will have simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. To enable the interpretation, if you are using your laptop or desktop, please locate the icon shaped like a globe at the bottom of your screen. Click on Language Interpretation and then select English. If you are on your phone, iPad, or similar device, then locate the three-dot menu on the upper right corner of your screen. Click on Language Interpretation and then select English. A efecto de proporcionar acceso lingüístico, esta reunión cuenta con interpretación simultánea al español. Si necesita interpretación en español y está en su computadora portátil o de escritorio, ubique el icono con forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Haga clic en Interpretación de idioma y luego seleccione Español. Si está en su teléfono, iPad o dispositivo similar, busque el menú de 3 puntos en la esquina superior derecha de su pantalla. Haga clic en Interpretación de idioma y luego seleccione Español o Spanish. Gracias.
Thank you. If you wish to view closed caption of this meeting, please view the meeting on SMUHSD Board Meeting YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on our website. You may view the captions in English as we live stream our meeting tonight, and you may view the captions in a variety of other languages if you choose to watch after this meeting has ended. Viewers may request additional accommodations by calling 650-558-2201. That's 650-558-2201. For our deaf and hard of hearing community, we have a team from Hannah Interpreting Services, and they will be interpreting our meeting this evening. We would like to ask everyone to speak at a clear and reasonable pace for our interpreters. Thank you. Okay, next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask our student board members to lead us. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Report of actions taken in closed session. In closed session upon the motion of Trustee Land and seconded by Trustee Chavez, the board took action to give notice of release, reassignment to employee number 4233 with a vote of 5-0. Okay. Item J, adopt the agenda. The Board of Trustees may either adopt the agenda as presented or make a change to the agenda through a motion, second, and majority vote. The Brown Act prohibits any additions to the agenda without a 72-hour public notice. Are there any questions or comments from the Board of Trustees or the Superintendent with respect to the agenda?
I actually wanted to change it around. I don't know if there's a way that we can have the soccer team go ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that way they can go home after.
That's a motion. I second that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
you want,
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So I moved to move up the EL
Mhm,
soccer
mhm.
team up to the top of the agenda.
And I second that.
Great.
Okay.
Great idea.
Are there any questions or comments from the public?
I don't believe on this item.
Okay, I think we got all the blue cards on other, nothing related to this. All in favor? Aye. So we've adopted the amended agenda. Student board reps, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Get used to that, huh?
Yeah.
Motion carries 5-0. Public comments. If you are joining us in person and wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comments section at the beginning of the agenda, please fill out a request to address the board form and submit it to the secretary.
Trustee Griffin,
Mhm.
point of order. I think we moved the students up before public
Oh,
comment.
you're right.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's what happens when you read from a script.
You're fine. You're fine.
Feel like the morning news.
It's okay. No worries.
Okay. So, you know, I want to make my comment at first because like they came in, they're all standing there and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
boy, they're going to stand there for the whole meeting. But anyway, Superintendent,
Thank you. So tonight we have Matt Shea, who is our ML Soccer Club Coordinator and San Mateo High School Fall and Spring Multilingual Learner Soccer Coach. He is here with the Fall Soccer Club Championship team for San Mateo High School. Join me in giving them a big round of applause.
Is it okay if they're here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to the right.
Oh.
Yeah, no, you go. to the
Nice.
right. That's fine. That's fine. You go there. So we want to thank the board for having us here tonight. It's kind of like our thing to come here in the spring and present. So I hope we keep on doing it and winning the fall title. So it's nice. We have been very lucky to have this program over the last, I want to say, I think 7 years. The ELD soccer program was started by Samia Showman over at Bridge Academy as a way to allow our ELD students to have a program where they could commit to playing in a league that allowed them to experience the game they love and be able to build community at a school where in many cases it's hard for them to attach to the school and a program that is as large as and diverse as it is, having to learn a new language and learn the culture of the new city that they're living in. So we've been very fortunate to be able to have this. It's very special to all of our kids, and it's something that every fall and spring, despite coming back to school and then coming off, I coach the varsity soccer team at San Mateo. It's always something that energizes me and makes me happy. So here I have Milton Galvan and I have Tiago Vivanco, and they are the two captains of the spring team. Milton is a junior and Tiago is a sophomore. They also played on the JV soccer team this year for San Mateo High School. Milton is in his first year at San Mateo High School and Tiago is in his second year. We've been really lucky in the last, I think there's been 9 recorded seasons with COVID interrupting my second year. But we've been very lucky to capture 4 titles out of the 9. Bridge has 3. Hillsdale has the inaugural one, and South San Francisco, who joined the league exactly this time last year, has 1. And we started with 4 teams: Cappuccino, Hillsdale, San Mateo, and Bridge. And now we've expanded to 6 with South San Francisco joining in the spring of 2024, and then Sequoia High School starting this spring. So I don't know how many more teams we can have join because it's field limitations and just distance and referees and expenses. But we feel very lucky to have this. It's something that has allowed our players from ELD to actually during the winter, we've had, I think, eight players in the last 3 years play varsity soccer and about 10 play JV. So we've been very fortunate to have it, and we hope that we continue to have this program for years to come. Thank you.
well, congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations.
I would ask how you get a championship sweatshirt, but apparently you have to win a championship. huh?
Right?
I was going to ask the same
Yeah.
question.
Schoolfunder.com.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate you guys showing up this evening.
Team photo. Well, you guys will take a team photo tonight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
excellent.
perfect.
Felicidades.
Felicidades.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming. Thank you for coming.
Okay,
Couple of awesome players right there.
we're gonna move on to public comments. If you are joining us in person and wish to make a comment about an agenda item or during the public comment section at the beginning of the agenda, please fill out a request to address the board form and submit it to the secretary. This form should be given to the secretary before the agenda item begins. If you are joining us virtually, use the raised hand feature on Zoom to be recognized. When invited to do so, your camera must be on before you are called upon to make a public comment. We will call on you to begin your comment once we have promoted you in the meeting. If your camera is not operational, please email your comments to the Board of Trustees at board@smuhsd.org. That's board@smuhsd.org. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment depending upon the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. I will call on in-person comment requests first. And before we actually call on people, I believe the board limits the public comment to 20 minutes, and we have more than we have more than 20 minutes at 3 minutes each. So I'm going to ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes each. And who's the, oh. Lisa Wright.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Wright, and I am a parent of a child in this district. I'm here tonight because I want to thank Trustee Jacobson. I saw her speak at a forum earlier this week, and I'm grateful that she shared her insights with us. She's always willing to engage with the community, even though she's often attacked for having differing views. That takes a lot of bravery. If our teachers and administrators can't tolerate respectful questions and criticisms about their course content in public meetings, I wonder how our students must feel in those same teachers' classrooms. This is not a criticism of all of the teachers in the district or all of the administrators. I've had many productive discussions with people, including Superintendent Booker. We often disagree, but I always find him very respectful, and he's always very willing to engage and listen. So I'm thankful to those of you who do that, and I hope that you'll continue listening to diverse voices like Trustee Jacobson's, Superintendent Booker's, and emulate Superintendent Booker's courtesy and respect. So I just wanted to come here to say thank you very much, Jennifer. We really appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Andrew Nemicola, is that close?
Sure, Andrew Nemekolo.
Nemekolo, sorry.
Thank you, everybody. I'm a Foster City resident. I've had a child go through the program here at San Mateo High School and graduate, took the ethnic studies course, and I'm also a former classroom teacher. And I want to thank the board for all that you do. I'm here because my understanding, and I hope I'm wrong, is that there's been a letter of communication from this teachers union to reprimand or in some way censor Trustee Jacobson related to her participation in an ethnic studies conference. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that's not the case. But if it is the case, I'll say that Trustee Jacobson, I watched the recording and I thought that your comments were actually a wonderful class in civics and in common sense. And in fact, what I saw in those minutes that you talked at the conference most recently, it showed somebody who's engaging and modeling using our legal avenues, helping students understand their rights. And frankly, that's something that would be great here at our social studies programs. To the teachers union, so for the folks who, if this letter has actually occurred, I don't know, I haven't seen it, but if to the teachers who signed off on this, I would say, Thank you. Not because I agree with it, what I think is the gist of it, but rather because you've shown a light. If ethnic studies can't stand up to scrutiny, if it's a fragile house of cards that has a weak foundation, I think that tells us a lot. I think it tells us that this is a topic that needs more scrutiny. And I was here in 2023 and prior years, and I saw that, you know, the program was looked at, but in a very perfunctory way. And so my request to the board is to really look closely. As a board, your job is to do things like really have scrutiny on the curriculum, not to rubber stamp what the teachers are telling you, but to be that check and balance to ensure that the education that our students are getting is teaching them not just what to think, no, sorry, teaching them how to think, but not what to think, that it's not ideological in nature. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jessica Gachet, or please correct me.
Oh, Geshe, yeah. Thank you. Hi, I was here at the last board meeting to ask for a statement in support of our LGBTQ community. And as somebody with LGBTQ loved ones and friends, I just really want to say how much I appreciate and just what happiness I had reading Superintendent Booker's statement on Sunday. I was really, really thrilled. I just recently had a conversation with an adult LGBTQ co-volunteer, and he was expressing to me the fear that he sees pervasive in the community and how important and reassuring it is when they see any sign, whether it's a rainbow pin or a policy, and that's being actually enforced. It really just makes it so much easier for them to keep going. So thank you very much. And I brought little thank you notes. So Charlene will hopefully get those to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yaifa Yvonne. And please correct me.
I will correct you. It's a hard one. I'm Ify Aron, and thank you, board, for listening to me today. I am a parent of a sophomore at San Mateo High School. She's a good student. She's a good athlete. I would love to see her up here one day with a trophy, but who knows? But I did come here today to support and actually applaud one of your board members, and that is Trustee Jacobson, for demonstrating how I wish we would approach the education of all our children and all our teachers. Listening, internalizing, and responding with genuinely to concerns regarding any topic. Trustee Jacobson, as has been mentioned, demonstrated this when she attended a forum on ethnic studies to hear and to speak, but to hear also from parents of different backgrounds and identities of their concerns regarding the ethnic studies curriculum. I've seen Trustee Jacobson on this committee on multiple occasions advocating for diversity of voices and as opposed to imposing a binary lens on our children's education and on our own approach to our children's education, and she should be applauded. And I think her attitude is very consistent with the board's own policies, which state that on controversial issues, there shall be presented a balanced manner addressing all sides of an issue without bias, prejudice, and without promoting any particular point of view. So thank you, Trustee Jacobson, for standing by those principles. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's not the pronunciation, it's the handwriting on this one. Tals Arbel.
Talia Arbel, apologies for the handwriting.
No, go ahead.
I'm also here to speak. Can you hear me? I'm also here to speak in support of Trustee Jackson. I don't have a kid in this school, but as someone who had a swastika painted on my door just a few years ago. What is going on these days terrifies me. I hear so many parents whose kids attend schools here and all around the Bay Area, and they're getting bullied. And this bullying often originates from their teachers, and there's nothing they can do about it. I hear students who go to these ethnic studies and they come home and they are ashamed and they are being taught these awful lies that just erase our whole stories. And the thought that this is not just happening, but anyone who's even trying to stand up to it is getting censored and punished for just hearing us out. I don't know where this is going. I don't think this is what you want to be. I truly believe this is not what you are. I really ask you to support us and stand with us here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Allison Rosen.
I too am here in support of Trustee Jacobson. I heard her speak at the ethnic studies presentation, and I was there too. I spoke and I said, who is that brilliant woman who's so articulate, so able to represent how a lot of us feel? I come from Palo Alto, and I told our story where there was black backlash from our brilliant board member who we adore, one of the few Chinese board members who we fought so hard to get elected, and we so treasured, and to think that our election would be overturned by just a few statements that someone didn't particularly like. I would say that healthy legislative bodies seek diversity of opinion so that they address all concerns. And I can tell you, after that incident, the parents have been texting each other day and night. Several hundred of us are saying, how could this happen? How can we be heard? So if you censor her, you censor your community and all our hopes. Listen to diversity of opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana Blum.
I'm a parent in a neighboring school district, which also repeatedly silenced and continues to silence concerned parents. And now that school district is facing multiple lawsuits as a result. I drove almost an hour here this evening to come personally thank Trustee Jacobson. I listened to her speak so eloquently at the Ethnic Studies Forum this week. And she spoke to the hearts of so many people who have been suffering for over a year now specifically, but it's been actually quite longer in both my district as well as those that have adopted a critical race theory, ethnic studies curriculum. This is not multicultural education. This is disempowering children by boiling them down into immutable characteristics, stripping their personal agency away by labeling them into binary, either oppressor or oppressed. So I just wanted to come here, look you in the face and say thank you. Thank you for giving the silenced a voice. It shouldn't come to legal battles, although I think all of us parents are prepared for that, but we shouldn't have to play whack-a-mole. We should have open and honest conversations about what we want for our children, and you exemplified that through your moral clarity and courage this week, so thank you again.
So I get Dr. Blum, did you turn in 2 cards or do we have 2 Diana Blums here? That's okay. I'm just checking. Just checking. Do we, Ms. Aquino, public comment, please, on virtual?
We do. I will start. I will promote Bastiva Raviv. Please start your camera. Please turn on your camera and begin. Pastiva Raviv, please turn on your camera. You can begin. You can unmute, please.
Am I okay?
You're good.
Okay, I'm also calling to support Trustee Jennifer Jackson, but I also want to speak about the ethnic studies in California. The ethnic studies in California has become the battleground for the controversy with some group activities using the curriculum to promote anti-Semitic narratives. While the original intent of ethnic study was to address the historical injustice, certain political groups have exploited it to push anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic rhetoric. For example, labeling Israel as a colonist oppressor is far from the truth, as if it ignored the fact that most Israeli citizens are descendants of refugees who fled persecution, including the Holocaust. Additionally, the majority of the Jews in Israel are not white. Early draft of the Colonist Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum, ESMC, included material that portrayed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in one-sided manner, demonizing Israel while overlooking terrorism and anti-Semitism in the Middle East. Despite public backlash, some school districts continue to use the original problematic content. University protests further demonstrate how the narrative promoted by the ECMC foster hostility toward Jewish students, particularly those who identify with Israel. While ethnic studies has the potential to promote inclusivity, it misuses by the certain activities group. It is intended deepening the division. So that's my comments.
Thank you.
Next will be Ornette Rose. You can come to the podium. I had you on Zoom.
Well, it looks like she probably is.
Next.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. What's your
Okay.
name?
My name is Ronit Rose.
There you go.
Your
Close,
Okay.
but not cigar. There you go.
camera needs
Okay,
to be on.
almost.
Always
Okay,
good
good
to know.
evening. Good evening, members of the school board and community.
I'm sorry,
here because
your
I'm,
camera needs to be on.
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Please.
turning it on. Just a minute.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, members of the school board and community. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned about how Jewish and Israeli history will be presented in the proposed ethnic studies curriculum. Education should be based on facts, not political agendas. Yet we have seen ethnic studies programs across the country become platforms for bias rather than balanced learning. Who is writing this curriculum and what is their agenda? If the materials are influenced by activists with history of anti-Israel or anti-Semitic bias, it could misinform students and foster division rather than understanding. We have already seen how misinformation about Israel has contributed to a rise in anti-Semitism, including in schools. If this curriculum portrays Jewish history unfairly, it could make Jewish students feel unsafe or targeted. Jewish and Israeli history are complex, and if they are to be taught, they must be presented by credible scholars, not activists pushing on ideology sense. Parents and the community deserve transparency about what will be taught and whether it promotes academic inquiry rather than one-sided narrative. Until we can be assured that the Jewish and Israeli topics will be taught fairly and factually, I urge the school board to reject their inclusion on ethnic studies. We must protect our students from bias and ensure that education serves to inform, not mislead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Griffin, we are at the 20-minute mark.
Thank you. Board comments? Trustee Land?
Do you think they understood anything?
Is this governing board comments?
Think they
Is
understood
this governing
anything?
board comment?
Governing board.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Very articulate, yeah. I'm gonna pass for now. Thank you.
Trustee Andrade Zuniga?
Can you come back to me, please? I need to collect my thoughts.
Okay. Trustee Jacobson?
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the people who have come to speak tonight, and we welcome all public comments. Thank you so much. I first wanted to congratulate the Hillsdale High School mock trial team for making the state competition and overcoming the Menlo School that has reigned the champions. So congratulations. I also participated in the Hillsdale High School mock interviews for the junior class last Thursday. And it was a wonderful opportunity to speak one-on-one. It was really a privilege to speak one-on-one with 11th graders about their plans for the future, their goals, hear about their skills and assets that they have developed. It was a mock job interview, and it was just a really great experience. As many of the commenters tonight have referenced, I recently participated in the California Forum on Ethnic Studies hosted by the Israeli American Civic Action Network. I accepted the invitation to speak at the forum with the intent to share my experiences within this district as a parent and as a trustee. The forum had a variety of speakers, including students, parents, and nonprofit advocates, and I invite everyone to view it for themselves and consider the perspectives that were shared. The recording is available on YouTube. I welcome this opportunity to further explain my actions and reaffirm my commitment to our students and defend my right to engage in open discourse as both a private citizen and an elected official. First, let me say that I deeply respect the work and expertise of our educators and staff. I have spoken many sincere words of praise and admiration for our staff and our programs. I have strived to develop respectful relationships with everyone in the district community, and my daughters have had many positive experiences with their teachers and administrators. I ran for this board because I sincerely care about the education we provide to every student in this district. My speech at the forum was not an attack on our teachers or our community, but a reflection of my experiences as a parent and a trustee. Experiences that led me to question certain aspects of our ethnic studies implementation and its broader impact. I spoke as an individual, exercising my First Amendment right to free speech, and as a trustee elected to represent the concerns of my constituents. My participation was not an official act of this board, nor did I claim to speak for the district as a whole. I identified myself as a trustee to provide context for my perspective, not to imply that my views were the district's position. Some may criticize my remarks as divisive and harmful, suggesting they undermine the district's mission and invite adversarial actions. I respectfully disagree. My speech highlighted legitimate concerns shared by many parents and community members about the sequencing of ethnic studies in 9th grade, the potential for ideological bias in its delivery, and its influence on other subjects. These are not personal attacks, but substantive questions about pedagogy, curriculum design, and student outcomes. For example, I asked why complex concepts like systemic oppression and colonization are introduced before students have foundational historical context from world and U.S. history courses. I raised the possibility that framing discussions around identity might pressure students to adopt or repeat specific viewpoints rather than encouraging independent thought and expression. These are not calls to dismantle ethnic studies, but invitations to refine it, to ensure it serves all students equitably and fosters true critical thinking. Anyone who has paid attention to my comments in public board meetings for the past 2 years would not find my remarks surprising. Some may take issue with my suggestion that families file formal complaints or pursue external avenues like the Office of Civil Rights when they encounter problematic content or classroom interactions. I stand by this guidance, not as a threat, but as an affirmation of existing processes. Our district's own board policy 6144 encourages unbiased engagement with controversial topics, and our complaint procedures exist to address concerns when dialogue alone isn't enough. My own family has used both dialogue with teachers and the formal complaint process successfully, and I believe others deserve to know about these channels. Transparency and accountability strengthen us, not weaken us. I also made reference to school choice initiatives, and my point in doing so was to highlight a broader conversation about educational options, a conversation happening across California, not just here. It's no secret that the teachers' union opposes these initiatives, or that its outsized power or that it has outsized power when it comes to educational discourse. School choice is not a threat to public education. It is a reflection of public dissatisfaction with the options they have. If families are seeking alternatives, it is not because of my words, it is because of their lived experiences in schools. I also want to point out that my actions align with efforts to defend public education or hold on. I want to address any accusations that my actions align with efforts to defund public education or reflect an activist agenda against the district. Nothing could be further from the truth. My critique of ethnic studies stems from a desire to see it succeed, to ensure it meets goals of fostering empathy and understanding without sacrificing intellectual diversity, historical breadth, or free inquiry. I voted against the new U.S. history course, not out of disdain for our teachers, but because I saw gaps in state-mandated content that I believe our students deserve to explore, and I disagreed with the framing of the course's essential questions. Finally, I reject any potential calls for censure. Free speech, even when it's uncomfortable, is a cornerstone of democratic governance. Last year, I attended Hillsdale High School's Democracy Day, where students presented lessons on threats to our democratic system. Seniors taught underclassmen about the dangers of polarization and media censorship of ideas. And yet, on the panel of locally elected officials, there was only one political party represented. As a trustee, I have a fiduciary duty to act in the district's best interest, but that duty does not silence my right or my responsibility to speak out when I see room for improvement. The Ethnic Studies Forum was a public platform to discuss a state-adopted curricular mandate, and my participation was an exercise in civic engagement, not a betrayal of this board. If anything, stifling dissent, whether in a classroom or a boardroom, runs counter to the critical thinking we aim to instill in our students. Calls to censure or recall an elected official for expressing a widely held perspective set a dangerous precedent. If disagreement is met with demands for punishment, how can we expect our students to learn the value of civil discourse? I remain committed to working collaboratively with this board, our educators, and our community to ensure that ethnic studies and all of our programs reflect the highest standards of education. I invite dialogue here, tonight, or anytime, because that's how we grow stronger. Let's move forward in the spirit of open debate, mutual respect, and a commitment to excellence in education. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Chavez.
I was going to talk about the soccer team, but they're gone. So congratulations to all of our athletes that already left. And with that, I'll just say one thing. I want to thank everyone that spoke. Public comments are always heard and they're always important to me, no matter what the topic. It's important to have respectful dialogue and hear opinions from all of our students, staff, parents, and community members. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I want to thank everyone who had the courage to come and speak, whether in person or virtually. Thank you.
Boy, thank you. That is the first time you only had one thing to say.
I know. I told you I wasn't feeling well too, so he knows that as well. Thanks.
Anyway, I'm going to make a comment, and actually, I'm going to start off with San Mateo High School. Still, they're playing tonight in was it Division II playoffs, and I'm a Bearcat. I'm hopeful they'll continue on, and too bad for you guys. Well, Burlingame's playing tonight too. Yeah. So good luck to Burlingame. The next thing is I want to congratulate Hillsdale High School mock trial team. My nephew who lived with me was on that team for years, and it really made a difference in his life. And now, lo and behold, he's a lawyer, which is just what the world needs. But anyway, he he enjoyed law when he was in Hillsdale, and now he practices law for the federal government in the Office of Personnel Management. And I'm sure he could have made a better career choice, but that's an editorial comment. Finally, I actually was watching the California Forum in Ethnic Studies on public schools, and I did register, and I don't even know what party I necessarily follow, but anyway, I was looking for divergent views, and I listened. It was kind of late for people to get up really early, but anyway, I appreciated the production. I think it brought together a lot of people. There was stuff there that I hadn't really seen. You know, I saw it maybe in a different light, but anyway, I'm going to circle back to the trustees who thought they were worthy of passing on comments and getting another chance. Trustee Land.
I genuinely was passing for the day. I've had a long day, and I'm just gonna
Thank you, sir.
absorb everybody's knowledge today.
Thank you, sir. Trustee.
Yes, I've got my comments. First I want to start with the land acknowledgement. Our community acknowledges that all of our campuses lie on the ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone. The Ramaytush are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula, whose land was stolen from them and whose native language was lost because of Spanish colonization. As settlers on the stolen land of the peninsula, we should be alongside the Ramaytush, remembering and honoring their ancestors and relatives. We thank the first people, the Ramaytush Ohlone, for taking care of the land we use now for education and activities. Our responsibility of caring for the earth is unique and personal to each of us, but should be rooted in allyship with the Ramaytush Ohlone, so we can work together to protect and preserve the land for future generations. That was written by some students from Cappuccino a few years ago. I did also attend the mock interviews at Hillsdale. I was able to meet about 5 students. I went on over a couple of days. It's always great to hear the aspirations of the students and give them some advice on how to just navigate the job market and navigate the job world that it's not always easy, but their perspectives are really refreshing. So it's always nice to see them. I also attended the Equity Advisory Committee. We had a discussion about hate speech in our schools. We had 3 different groups, and we each got a different topic, and we just talked about whether the students really understand what they're saying and why they're saying it, and who's being affected by it. And so it was a really great conversation about the type of language that we use on campus. I am also the secretary for the San Mateo County School Board Association, and we are requesting nominations for officers, for trustees that are part of the association also, and also for area representatives. So if you are a member of the San Mateo County School Board Association, please nominate if you have someone in mind or if you'd like to participate. We're looking to close that soon in the next couple of weeks, so please, please get in touch with us. Secondly, I'd like to, or not secondly, actually, I have a lot of points. Right now, there are a lot of folks being targeted for their immigration status. And there are red cards that have your rights and steps you can take in the event that you get stopped by ICE or by any official that is asking for your credentials. They are available either online through the county website or through different immigration services throughout the county. So if you're in need of some support, it also has some phone numbers to call if you need that assistance. I too was very pleased with the message that that Superintendent Booker sent out about our LGBTQ plus community. It's really important that we protect each other and support each other, especially right now as there is a lot of language out there, starting from the federal government, on who belongs in our communities and who doesn't. It's very disturbing. So thank you to the parents that always come and speak. It's highly appreciated. As well as educating yourselves, I mentioned that the last meeting about the Department of Education and the dismantling of all of that and the effect of people with disabilities in the community. Today, there was word that the Administration on Community Living is being evaluated by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. If that organization is scrutinized so bad that they lose their funding, that organization serves or provides funding to different organizations within the country, really, providing services to folks with disabilities. So we have to be really mindful about who we're supporting and why we're supporting them, because of the ramifications that there are in different communities. I too watched some of the forum or of the webinar from the community yesterday. And I'm just really, I'm honestly disappointed. Along with, asking for dialogue, it should be a two-way street. What this does, regardless of what the intentions were, the way that it sounds and comes across is very untrusting. And it continues a sentiment of division and of again, mistrust for our educators. I think we do have to stop and think about, do we trust our educators? Do we trust our district in what we are teaching our students? my kids too went through this district and they did take ethnic studies. And what was really refreshing about the curriculum was that there were points in the history of our own culture that had never been discussed and had never been acknowledged. So for us, it made us feel seen. And that is what it does to a lot of students. With some of the things that are being taught in ethnic studies, maybe we need to also look at communities that are not just our communities and our realities, and begin to kind of understand what we all experience, because it's not the same. And I'm also speaking on this as a person of color with a disability, as a woman in this community that has been born and raised here. It hasn't always been easy, having my parents being immigrants from Guatemala, being called wetbacks and being targeted, that they don't look like the people that belong here. You don't belong here, is always what I've been told. That sucks. And so ethnic studies is also to understand all of these things that have happened and why and how we don't repeat that. We stop repeating the same thing and hurting our communities and hurting each other. This can also create an exodus of educators, which is really sad, because all of our educators in this district work really hard for what they do, and they're extremely educated. They also go through lessons and learning new things every year. They also have to keep up with their credentialing. So I guess I'll just stop with no one is trying to silence anyone, although voices have been silenced throughout history and throughout the history of this community. There's been redlining, there's been a lot of decisions made that have hurt specific communities. And so I think that for all of us, I mean, yeah, you are correct, Trustee Jacobson, that there has to be a dialogue. But in the way that that was held, that's not the answer. So, thank you.
I'd like to thank the trustees, and now I'm going to call on the student board members and welcome Athena.
Thank you. My name's Athena Boston-Mayer, and I'm a junior at Burlingame, and I'm an avid volunteer in my local community.
And just to reintroduce myself, my name is Emily and I'm from Aragon.
Currently at Burlingame, we have a new assistant principal, Barry Tyler, and he's made great effort to get to know the entire student body. And this week is our cultural celebration week. We had a mariachi band at lunch today, and yesterday we had a food night. And our Model UN held its first ever home conference on Saturday. And the guest speaker was Eric Schultz, who was the deputy press secretary to Barack Obama. Cool.
And at Aragon, we've been filming our lip dub, which is a video that showcases our school spirit and all of the over 50 clubs on our campus. We've also been working, we as in students and also staff faculty, have been working together to create cards that we're sending to victims of the LA fires.
At our last student board meeting, we focused on developing our leadership skills, and we did this through leadership simulations in which a problem was presented to us, and we discussed how best to overcome it as leaders.
And Mr. Huddleston also taught us about objective correlatives, which are symbols that leaders can use to heighten the emotional weight of their presentations and their speeches.
And lastly, we are both members of the new AI task force, and we are both looking forward to the first meeting taking place on March 20th.
and we'd like to speak a little bit about our two proclamations that will be included in the consent agenda today. The first of which is the proclamation for the National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, DDAM, observed throughout March, is a nationwide event to raise acceptance for the inclusion of all people with developmental disabilities and to continue to address the barriers that exist. Recent estimates in the U.S. indicate that 1 in 6, or about 17% of children aged 3 through 17 have one or more developmental disabilities, or 1.3 billion people globally. DDAM is celebrated to accept the strengths of people with disabilities and their rights to full access and participation in environments that value and honor their talents and abilities. The San Mateo Union High School District acknowledges the intersectionality of disability with all other forms of discrimination and will strive to provide instruction in disability history and the disability rights movement to enhance the understanding of disability by incorporating social, cultural, historical, and legal perspectives, including the connections between disability and other identities. Disability is a fact of the human experience and not the exception. The San Mateo Union High School District prioritizes the support and education of its 88 students served in the Bay Academy at Burlingame, Hillsdale, and Mills High Schools, and 81 students served in the Bay University programs at Burlingame and Cappuccino High Schools, as well as the Bay Quest program at the College of San Mateo, to reach their full potential. Through the National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities, NACDD, DDAM 2025 seeks to highlight the challenges and achievements of people with developmental disabilities, promoting inclusion and advocacy. The NACDD has adopted the color orange as the official color of DDAM, symbolizing energy and positivity. The San Mateo Union High School District schools will encourage the wearing of orange to spread a positive message of inclusion.
Next is National Women's History Month. Women's History Month began as a local celebration in Santa Rosa, California for 1 week. The Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women was first planned and executed a Women's History Week celebration in 1978. The organizers selected the week of March 8th to correspond with International Women's Day. American women of every race, class, and ethnic background throughout our history have, despite hardship, exclusion, and discrimination, strived and sacrificed for equity and equality in communities across the country and have served as leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. Suffragists, including pivotal leaders like Carrie Chapman Catt and Alice Stokes Paul, helped pass the 19th Amendment, assuring that no American could be denied a vote on the basis of sex. 9 years earlier, in October of 1911, suffragists in California had successfully campaigned for the state to become the 6th in the nation to grant women full voting rights. Women have continued to advocate for civil rights, pass the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and work towards securing the Equal Rights Amendment originally approved by Congress in 1972. That same year, Title IX of the Education Amendments was enacted to prevent sex-based discrimination in education, expanding opportunities for young women in academics and athletics. Generations of women continue to lead the fight for social justice, from societal equity to climate justice. The Bay Area was the home to many women who have achieved significant firsts, including Kamala Harris, the first woman elected as vice president, Dianne Feinstein, the first woman elected as California's U.S. Senator, and Dr. Jennifer Doudna, a Nobel Prize-winning biochemist known for pioneering CRISPR gene editing research, to name a few. The SMUHSD workforce is made up of 61% women. Our student body is made up of 47% women. SMUHSD and our communities recognize the importance of understanding women's history and sharing it with our students, particularly with regard to honoring the significant and long-standing contributions women have made in this nation, in California, and our local community.
Thank you.
Thank you. I always ask, who wrote the two proclamations?
I helped write some portions of the National Women's History Month one, along with Libby, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, and Joy. For the National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, I'm not sure which board members have them.
I believe Ms. Chalkley can share who.
That was Elijah from Cappuccino.
Okay.
Nice.
I think it's really important that we give them credit because these are really well written and they show a lot of thought. And I think we just, the message is a good message and certainly there's a lot of effort put into that. So thank
Trustee
you.
Griffin, can I say something?
Yes.
Over time, I've seen the development of the verbiage in the proclamations, and they just keep getting better and better. So thank you. You all are amazing.
And I want to thank you for reading what you read. It's great. The summarizing, awesome. Thank you.
I do have a comment about one of the proclamations, but I wonder if I should pull it from the consent agenda.
Well, I think we made comments, so I figured if you have a comment, might as well do it now.
Well, actually, I wanted to make a motion to amend one of them, so.
Well, then you pull it.
So which one is it you'd like to pull?
Item 7.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt it, less item 7?
I move to approve.
Okay,
Can I also pull the previous one then too, the developmental disabilities one?
That's number 8.
Please.
okay, so we're gonna need a proper motion now that we've got 2 of them being
Yes.
pulled.
I'll move to approve all of the consent agenda minus item 9 and 10.
No,
7
and 8.
7 and 8. Second.
Thank you.
Second.
I heard it differently, sorry.
No, that's
All
okay.
right, go ahead.
If we had a parliamentarian here, they would have to rescind.
You have to
the-
rescind Trustee Jacobson's
Okay.
motion.
Yes.
But anyway,
amend
we
hers.
You're all
have
good
we have
parliamentarians. I like that.
we have the proper motion on the floor.
All right.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's take up 7 first.
I just wanted to mention.
No, it's women's.
Oh, I
seven's
thought it was
women's.
you're right. Go ahead. I
7's women's,
apologize.
8 is
Well, I was
bad.
just gonna
Go
take
ahead.
them in numeric
Sorry.
sequence, but
Sorry.
it's okay.
Just
I thought it
talk
was
in
the
numerical
opposite.
order, point of information, point of order.
Go ahead.
No,
I first want to thank those who crafted this thoughtful proclamation honoring National Women's History Month. I am proud to support it as it beautifully captures the remarkable contributions of women across history. I'd like to offer one small suggestion as we finalize this. And I did make this comment last year and hoped it would be included this year, but it was not. While the proclamation highlights women's public achievements, I think it could be even stronger by explicitly recognizing their foundational role as mothers and primary caregivers, a role that's been a treasured part of my own life and I know for many others. The miraculous capacity to give life and nurture children is, to me, the bedrock of so many contributions we celebrate. It's not separate from the fight for justice or the advancements in every field. It's often what fuels them. A simple line acknowledging this could honor that universal experience and unite us in celebrating the full scope of women's impact. I'd be happy to work with staff on wording. I also have a suggestion prepared tonight if you would like to consider it.
Is there any discussion?
I think one of the only things that is hard about that is that not all women can have children. And it's sometimes pretty devastating to hear that. And so I don't know. I don't know.
My only comment is, this is students putting this together,
Sure,
and
sure.
I don't think they've thought about this quite yet. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't put it in. I'm just saying it's coming from students who are coming from their perspective, and I think that's why it kind
I
of
don't think
oversight.
students have been engineers or
Yeah, but they
elected
haven't thought-
officials yet either, and they've thought about that.
But
I
it's a
guess they're
career
looking
choice.
outwards, and I think it was an oversight more than anything else. That's all what I was saying.
And that's fine. That's why I'm offering it as an amendment at this
But I hear
time.
what
You
yeah, I
know,
hear
the
it.
next time I call this, I wish they'd wait for me before we get this conversation going. We've got a good discussion here, and I do remember you brought this up at the last year when it came up.
And regardless of if women can have children, every single one of us has been born from a woman, and we can honor that.
Okay, well,
Do you want to mention, trustee, through the chair, is it okay if I?
yes, please.
We'll get back to our parliamentarian asked to speak. Trustee Jacobson, what did you have in mind? Was there a couple of sentences that you wanted to add, or?
Yes, it's as follows. Whereas women's historic and ongoing role as mothers and primary caregivers has nurtured generations, providing the foundation for countless advancements in justice, culture, and society.
Any further discussion? I'm looking to the student board members.
I think it's really well worded. I appreciate all the facets to the discussion that we've been hearing. I think perhaps in a way to honor the role that women have in raising children without trying to exclude people who can't give birth, we can find a way to highlight more of the caregiving role as everyone is able to do that, and we can recognize that aspect.
Emily, I was gonna comment on the fact that, we went through the introductions, you kind of went like, oh, I'm back again, but that was really well spoken. And I'll agree with that if we can get the board to
I
agree
agree
to
with
it.
her. too.
No, keep going.
You want to step in this too?
Ooh.
He used to read the proclamation.
So, I mean, I think we can live with that amendment if
Sure.
somebody can capture it. And the only thing I would say in the future, because I think this was part of the package, if we can get these comments, we can save some, I don't know, it's not the process, it's the time at this point.
Yeah, the only suggestion that I would, oh, did I cut you off, Trustee Jacobson? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only suggestion I would make is, Ms. Aquino, when is the next student board rep meeting?
Mid-March, March the 20th, I believe.
Oh, that's too late.
Yeah.
I would say, let's see, maybe if we can grab the comments from tonight, we'll have the video from tonight, have the student board council watch the video, listen to the dialogue back and forth. This would be a great exercise for them, a teaching moment for them to
I like that.
review it, discuss it, and then bring back to us. What's the second board meeting in March? What's the date? on
March
that?
27th.
Bring it back on March 27th for revision and review by the board. And I think in that way, it honors the suggestions by Trustee Jacobson, as well as the efforts and work by our student board representatives.
Exactly.
That would be my
Great.
suggestion.
That's a
I
great-
agree. I
great
think that's a
idea.
great
Okay.
idea.
That's a great idea.
Okay, every suggestion gets better than the last, so.
That's why you go last.
We're tabling item 7 to come back. So thank you. Item 8, National Development Disabilities Awareness Month proclamation.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for including Bayquest and including the programs that we have here in the district. They're really important. However, I wanted to see if maybe we could, I guess, provide in reading the proclamation like we did last year, some students from the Bay Academy or from the different places that, or the different schools that have students that are willing to read it?
I think that's a great idea. We did that last year. I believe we did that last year, but I think we did it through a video, if I'm remembering. So let me work with Dr. Hooks and see if, I mean, I would suggest you pass it tonight, but that doesn't preclude us from working with our special education department to see if they can put either a similar video together or in person. I don't want to put that on the spot on them, but see, because that can sometimes take a tremendous amount of effort and comfortableness, if that's a word. But let me see what I can do. I think it's a good suggestion.
Okay. So is there a motion?
I motion to approve the proclamation of National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board, I mean, the student board.
Aye.
Thank you. Well, forgive me, I'm exhausted. This is just like, we haven't started the meeting yet, so welcome. Regular reports, report of the superintendent.
I'll be quick. Thank you very much, board. So this evening, I want to discuss supporting Muslim staff and students during Ramadan. Ramadan is anticipated to begin the evening of Friday, February 28th. Muslim staff and students in our classrooms will be fasting from dawn to sunset, starting the evening of Friday, February 28th through Friday, March 28th, with the celebratory days of Eid al-Fitr anticipated to be observed at sunset on March 29th or March 30th, depending on the phase of the moon. We encourage our educators to talk to our students about Ramadan to help them understand and appreciate the diversity that exists in our world and at our schools. Understanding groups of people who've been historically, who've been othered is the first step to humanizing each other and building appreciation through knowledge. And as I've been doing lately, I want to acknowledge and congratulate our February Golden Apple Award winner this month. We awarded one Golden Apple to a deserving employee who goes above and beyond to show exemplary service, dedication, and resourcefulness among so many other amazing qualities. Our Golden Apple recipient in February was Armando Giolfo, student data analyst at Burlingame High School. Armando has been with the district for 11 years, and he was nominated by several of his colleagues. Just a couple I just pulled out to acknowledge. Assistant Principal Amy Malcolm wrote, Armando is brilliant and helpful and insightful and goes above and beyond to support students and staff. His support and expertise is invaluable, big exclamation point. He's also very collaborative and willing to support others in their professional learning. So congratulations to Armando on being our February Golden Apple recipient. And I'll come back in March, toward the end of March, with our March winners. So thank you very much. Your microphone.
Sorry. Report of the District Teachers Association representative, Mr. Childress.
Good evening, President Griffin, members of the board, and district cabinet. First of all, just piggyback on some of the recognitions. If you haven't been out to see an ML soccer game, I would just strongly encourage it. I'm a huge soccer fan, and the kids and the students involved, and even the adults involved, it's a great time, and I really want to congratulate the champions this year. But overall, the program is a huge asset that we should be proud of in our district. Also want to recognize, as Trustee Jacobson and others have mentioned, the Hillsdale mock trial team. I've been going to the mock trial competitions for over 30 years, and Hillsdale has always been a stronghold for the peninsula. They've done well in the past, and this year is no exception. It's exciting. It's fun. If you've never been to a mock trial match, you should definitely try to see one. Obviously, the ones that are available are going to be next year now, but you should really do it. And then Trustee Griffin, Bob, Antonio, I love that kid. And Office of OPM, sorry, hopefully he's okay. I remember seeing him in the courthouse acting as an attorney. I think he was a witness early on in his career as mock trial, but a great kid and a testament to your guidance and support of him as a student. I'll take a point of personal privilege. I recognize the retirees occasionally, and I just want to say a few words about one of my best friends, Charlie Bissell. His retirement is announced in the board minutes tonight. I've known Charlie since the early 80s. We went to high school together. We both were inspired by the same physics teacher at Aragon. I'll drop a name, but nobody's probably knows him, Jordan Neary. To get into science education, Charlie and I both taught in other districts prior to coming home, so to speak, to the San Mateo Union High School District. And for the last 31 years, we've been teaching partners in crime, so to speak, teaching partners, shepherding kids through physics at Hillsdale High School. But more than that, objectively, I just want to say that Charlie's contribution to both Hillsdale and the district really can't be overstated. He's been an asset as an educator, as someone who is passionate about science. He served as the science curriculum coordinator for the district and served on so many committees. He's been a part of the Teachers Association, and I'm not sure how my life is going to be different after he leaves for the next few years that I have left. So I just want to congratulate him and hopefully recognize him as a instrumental member of the district. In response to, I really want to also respect the speakers tonight, and I think it's really important to recognize the importance of civil discourse and appreciate I think Ms. Wright mentioned thoughtful criticism. And I think that it's really important to hear all voices. I think there's some confusion over, and I'm sorry, I apologize, Andrew, I didn't catch your last name, about the letter that I wrote to the board. I'll read that later in a few moments, and I want to read it into the record. But the letter and the concern over Trustee Jacobson's presence and presentation at the forum had little to do with ethnic studies or her opinions, personal opinions. In fact, as I read the letter, you will see that protected speech is something that I'm very passionate about. That said, I also think that there may be a need to trust but verify. When people talk about censoring, silencing, disparaging remarks about silencing someone, find the facts first. There's a difference between the word censor and censure. And if you need to look it up, you can. But censure specifically means to make a statement that is condemning something that has occurred that is contrary to the mission of an organization or an entity or an agent that is all agreed upon. The word censure is different from censor. So with that, I'll go ahead and read the letter into the record because I think it's important for everyone to understand what the concerns are and the primary focus of the concern. So earlier today, I sent a letter to the board I shared the 10-minute segment of the forum in which Trustee Jacobson spoke. This is not a personal attack. This is a comment and concern over Trustee Jacobson's role as a trustee for the district of the San Mateo Union High School District and the community that she represents. I'm truly disgusted. In 32 years of service, I have never observed a more overtly subversive and destructive act by any San Mateo Union High School District official than what was presented during that time. I'm sure some of you have seen the presentation by Trustee Jacobson at the California Forum on Ethnic Studies by the Israeli American Civic Action Network, streamed live earlier this week. It is very telling that the moderators of the forum invited all California legislators and none chose to participate. Trustee Jacobson chose to participate as a representative of the San Mateo Union High School District Board. While the purported focus of the forum was a concern over the California adopted curriculum for ethnic studies, the focus of Trustee Jacobson's message was one of divisiveness, distrust, disdain, and blame. Trustee Jacobson did nothing to support the district mission, nothing to support the district staff, did nothing to support the district teachers, and did nothing to support the San Mateo Union High School District community at large. Instead, Trustee Jacobson's message seemingly was essentially a call for action against the San Mateo Union High School District community. We as an association support all of our teachers. We of course support our ethnic studies teachers. We support the process of curriculum development, and we support the board's fair process and actions to implement the ethnic studies in our district, just as we do any program. It is clear that one of our elected trustees does not share this same supportive position of the district process. Trustee Jacobson stated unequivocally that her sole reason for her run for the position of trustee was to, quote, push back on the trend to incorporate a particular state-adopted curriculum. Trustee Jacobson listed exactly one data point to support her initiative. She claimed that she was concerned about her child's description of various class discussions within district classrooms, arguably something that every parent has a right to be concerned about. However, this time it was ethnic studies, and there seems to be a focus on ethnic studies. What class is going to be next? While as a parent and certainly as a trustee in both contexts, Jacobson has every right to question and or critique any curriculum administered in the San Mateo Union High School District. Trustee Jacobson has no logical basis to conflate one teenager's feelings with the San Mateo Union High School District's mission, adoption, or acceptance of a particular curriculum. In fact, it is the trustee's duty to act in good faith to ensure that the schools follow the law, regulations, and the missions and policies of the school board in San Mateo Union High School District. Again, the curriculum in question is board approved and state adopted. Trustee Jacobson went on to disparage both teachers and staff, suggesting that some activist teachers are responsible for the nature of the state adopted curriculum. She went on to suggest that these activist teachers are also somehow in control of the schools and are developing gender questioning, intellectually deficient activist graduates rather than critical thinkers. The nature of her remarks seemed to indicate that she has become the activist in an effort to harm our district. In one particularly aggressive rant, Trustee Jacobson also suggested support for a bogus school choice, also known as a voucher initiative, that would put the teachers union on notice. I truly have no idea what this means or where she could have learned this phrase. It belies ignorance on the issue. School choice is a simple-minded trope. It's a straw man. The choice in the school choice movement belongs to the private schools, which can refuse anyone it does not wish to educate. No one is guaranteed admission to any choice, quote, choice school. Even if every non-public school was willing to accept every voucher student in the state of California, it still doesn't add up. Where are the schools? No, truly, where are the schools? They're certainly not on the overcrowded peninsula or in the rural communities of the Central Valley or any other area in the state of California to shepherd and support the students of this state. The only families who are truly guaranteed to benefit from the so-called voucher program are those who have already abandoned the public education community and are already paying for a cloistered private education. Any voucher program would simply reward with a government subsidy, and I know how some people don't like that, the abandonment of public education and truly steal from the students of our community. Everything I've shared thus far pales in comparison to my major concern over the trustee's presentation. Trustee Jacobson summed up her comments at the forum with suggested actions or guidance for students, families, community members, etc., with so-called concerns about district operations. Rather than provide productive guidance on district policies and protocols, which are available for all for constructive and collaborated inquiry and criticism, Trustee Jacobson suggested that filing formal complaints, lawsuits, Office of Civil Rights complaints, etc., to compel the district to respond. She did not suggest productive path forward. Trustee Jacobson did not establish protocols and process for the district change. Instead, Trustee Jacobson championed and advocated for derogatory actions that would undoubtedly harm the district. Actions that would unnecessarily divert resources, both personnel and funding, away from the classroom. What happened to her duty to support the defend the students and families of this district? What happened to her fiduciary responsibility to put the district's interests before her own, to ensure that the district follows its policies, protocols, and to handle district affairs with the same level of care as she would her own, to act in good faith in the best interest of the district and its community? All of Trustees Jacobson's suggested actions are adversarial and will necessarily result in an encroachment on the district's general fund. But it's not just about money. Trustee Jacobson specifically championed the OCR process, Office of Civil Rights. In addition to being an impediment to the district operations, it includes a potential for withdrawal of federal funding. It is as if the trustee is advocating for extreme measures and actions to further a personal agenda rather than attack that aligns with district board and board policies and serves and protects all students. As I watched Trustee Jacobson's presentation, her statements and calls for action reminded me of one of the recent executive orders signed by the U.S. President. That particular order condemned American public education as, quote, indoctrination, and seeks to defund all but patriotic curricula. Indeed, the moderator of the forum also stated that despite the refusal by all California legislators to participate in the said forum, quote, our friends at the federal level in both the legislative and executive branches have taken a keen interest in this issue. Trustee Jacobson was introduced as an elected member of the San Mateo Union High School District Board. She acknowledged her title and role as a trustee and spoke contextually as a trustee. While all trustees are entitled to their own opinion and speech as an individual is protected, it is almost unbelievable that a sitting trustee would act in such a way to invite harm on the district and community that she represents. It is unconscionable. It is a dereliction of duty. It is a failure to represent the true wishes of her area constituents. I strongly urge the board to take decisive action to address Trustee Jacobson's harmful acts against the San Mateo Union High School District. A formal recall effort would take some time. In the interim, the board should feel obligated to formally censure Trustee Jacobson as a demonstration of solidarity and support for the families and educators and students of the San Mateo Union High School District community. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. And you know, Antonio has 2 children of his own now, so he's got responsibilities, Greg.
That's remarkable. Time flies.
Yeah, there you go. P3, report of CSEA Chapter 519. Apparently there's no report tonight.
Correct.
Okay. Report of the San Mateo Adult School Teachers Association.
Good evening. One moment, please, everybody. Good evening. Thank you, Board President Griffin, Vice President Terry Chavez, board members, and Superintendent Booker for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Kelly Underwood Rasmus, and I am an ESL teacher and the Secretary of the San Mateo Adult School Federation of Teachers. We, the AFT-CFT Union and staff of the San Mateo Adult and Career Education Campus are here to share some updates from our school. First, we are thrilled to share the remarkable achievements of our student leaders. Our first school-wide student council meeting was a resounding success with impressive attendance and enthusiastic student leadership participation, demonstrating a strong commitment to student voice and leadership within our adult education community. Our student council had been, excuse me, everybody, for the lighting situation in my home. One moment.
Good. I see that.
Okay, thank you. Our student council had been temporarily inactive during the pandemic, and it has taken us a few years to get it going again. But with the addition of a staff member, we were able to get our student council going again. And as I said, it was a resounding success with very impressive attendance and enthusiasm. And recently at California Council for Adult Education Bay Section Conference this past Saturday, February 22nd, 12 of our outstanding student leaders from Student Council and our Student Ambassadors Program represented our school at the conference, and 7 of these students participated in a powerful panel discussion, sharing their personal stories and emphasizing the crucial role of school-provided volunteering opportunities in fostering community integration, workforce readiness, and overall well-being for immigrant students. Their contributions to this important dialogue were truly impactful. And you may have heard in previous reports that our student leaders are really known throughout the state. They've been highlighted in state conferences as well as national conferences. Our school is known nationwide for our student leadership programs. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize one of our outstanding alumni. We are incredibly proud to announce that Alexander Clemente, a dedicated former student and current volunteer, was awarded the California Council for Adult Education Bay Section Scholarship. This well-deserved recognition will support Alexander in achieving his educational goals at the University of California, Santa Cruz. And I have to give a special shout out to Alexander because he was one of my students in what we call our literacy level class. When Alexander came to my class, he did not know the alphabet in English. And and that was in 2019, so 6 years ago. He is now in his 2nd or 3rd year at UC Santa Cruz. So we're incredibly proud of his achievements, and he's an excellent example of what our adult school students can go on to do. Next, we would like to recognize excellence in our adult and career education faculty and staff. Ms. Mary Wang, one of our ESL and active adult program instructors. She currently teaches Spanish in that program. She was recognized for her excellence in instruction, and Cheryl Torres Stubblefield was recognized for her outstanding performance and support as our instructional assistant. We'd also like to extend our gratitude to Marina Kravtsova, Elena Babich, and Kathy Gardia, who were our student leader support team, and to our adult school team, Stephanie Wright, Carlotta Zuniga, Monica Suarez, Anthony Torres, and Anthony Torres for organizing the California Council of Adult Education Bay Section Conference event. So it was our school who organized this event for the Bay Area. Another item our union would like to address at this meeting is the plan to install 2 portable classrooms for the Bridge Academy on the Adult and Career Education Campus this coming May. Currently, the adult campus is housing the Bridge Academy in 6 of our classrooms, and now 2 more portable classrooms will be placed in our courtyard for a total of 8 classrooms. On our small campus, we have a total of 18 classrooms, and the Bridge Academy is now using 6 of those, leaving us with 12 classrooms in the morning. Our morning program has about 350 to 400 students who attend every school day. We house those 350 to 400 students in 12 classrooms. The Bridge Academy currently has 6 classrooms for a 60 student population and is adding 2 more portable classrooms. Our union doesn't understand why the Bridge Academy has been given permission to add 2 more classrooms. With this addition, Bridge will have 8 classrooms to house from around 60 to 80 students, while our school will have 12 classrooms to house 350 to 400 students in our morning program. We are concerned about this plan since our adult ESL program is currently turning away students because we don't have enough classrooms to house them in the morning. We are also concerned about the installation of these portables during our instruction time and the distraction that this will cause, as the plan is to place them near our current classrooms. Secondly, our union is concerned about parking availability for our students with the placement of 2 portable units in our courtyard. With the upcoming construction of the new Bridge Academy in the current parking lot, in our adult school current parking lot on Poplar Avenue, we were told by the superintendent and Mr. Hawkins that our parking lot would be transferred to our courtyard area. If the 2 portables are placed in this area, we wonder where our students will park, especially since our current parking lot is not big enough to accommodate our needs, as we share our parking lots with the transportation department and San Mateo High School teachers. We look forward to hearing from Mr. Hawkins when he visits our campus next week to speak about this issue with our faculty and staff. Our final thoughts this evening are about immigration policy in our country. With the current administration, there have been changes in immigration policy that have far-reaching consequences that extend beyond undocumented individuals. While those without legal documentation face the highest risk of deportation under revised federal directives, individuals with limited immigration statuses, such as the temporary protected status, are also experiencing heightened anxiety. The revocation of the temporary protected status for Haitian nationals exemplifies the precarious nature of these protections, which, despite offering temporary relief from deportation and work authorization, do not provide a path to citizenship. This climate of uncertainty generates widespread fear within affected communities, impacting even U.S.-born students who witness the absence of their peers and experience a diminished sense of security. The removal of community members through immigration enforcement disrupts the social fabric of both educational and broader civic environments, underscoring the systemic effects of immigration policies. Recognizing the profound impact these policies have on our communities, and especially our adult school community, we here at San Mateo Adult and Career Education are committed to providing a safe haven in which our students can learn, grow, and thrive. We understand the importance of fostering an inclusive and supportive environment, particularly for those facing uncertainty due to shifting immigration landscapes. With solidarity and grace, we thank you.
Thank you for your report. Okay, we're going to move on to Q1, Spotlight on Learning.
Good evening. We're excited to provide details about the professional learning programs for our certificated teachers and staff. This is our annual presentation about professional learning that is going to provide an overview of the different programs and their impact on certificated staff. This presentation will not dive into specifics on topics covered during our PD sessions or how those topics are determined or reviewed. With that, I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Sabby Hopkins and Mr. Marlo Begset.
Turn on that.
Red lights on.
Hmm?
Good evening, members of the board and cabinet. Marlo and I are really excited to present to you tonight an overview of our professional learning programs. And normally at this time of year, we do kind of highlights of our One District Professional Development Day. And we're really proud to share with you what we do throughout the year to support the teachers in San Mateo Union High School District. I want to start out by saying teaching is an incredibly complex profession, and teachers need to be adept at a wide variety of skills in the profession to do their job well. In addition to that, as true with any organization, we have to think about what the needs are of employees at every stage of their, we call it cycle, in the profession. Whether they're new to the profession or they've been an experienced teacher, they require different forms of professional learning support. Additionally, we need to ensure teachers engage with ongoing professional learning in order to stay current with education research and, to stay sharp in the classroom and meeting students' needs. I think the clicker died.
Oh, no.
Was that me or was that tech support? Okay, thank you. So we'll just say next when we're ready. So the way this presentation is organized is we're going to be talking about the professional learning we provide in terms of the stage of an employee's career, but also with the context of their teaching assignment. Next slide. Was that me? Okay, I'm going to go with that was me. So the journey of being a teacher actually begins with teacher induction. Teacher induction is part of the California two-tiered credentialing system. When a teacher finishes their preparation program, they have a preliminary teaching credential, and they're required to enroll an induction program in order to clear that credential. We're proud to offer our own in-house teacher induction program, where we've been supporting on average 27 teachers a year for over the past 3 years, where they receive 2 years of job-embedded support and mentorship in order to grow their practice in alignment with the California standards for the teaching profession. We measure program impact for teacher induction on a wide variety of measures, and I just want to highlight these two as being particularly impactful. So the top graph shows how mentees or teacher candidates experience their coach's ability to facilitate what we call the plan, teach, reflect cycle of learning. And over the past 3 years, you can see that our induction candidates rate their mentors as highly effective in this practice. Underneath that, another important measure of induction program efficacy has to do with how mentors are able to support new teachers in what we call just-in-time support. What are the urgent, upcoming, almost emergency issues that every new teacher faces, and how adept and flexible is the mentor at doing that? And again, you can see that our mentors are perceived as incredibly highly effective in the program. I'm going to pass this over to Marlo, who's going to talk about the newly hired teacher program.
Greetings, everyone. Board, the cabinet superintendents, and student board reps, and the community at large. I'm here to talk about the new hired teacher program, which I help coordinate for the past 3 years. So who does this impact? It impacts anybody new to the district, but anybody also new to teaching. And so what this program entails is an orientation at the beginning of this year with an average of 47 participants or new hires, and 4 new teacher program workshops aligned to the principles of the instructional framework. Some of the titles of these workshops are like the Universal Design for Learning, supported literacy in the academic content area, humanizing pedagogy, and creating safe or student-centered communities and classrooms. And so all of these sessions are designed so that any discipline or any content area teacher can basically enhance their teaching practices. And so why this is important? Well, it started back in 2015, and I actually joined the district in 2016, so the second year of the new teacher program. And we know that it actually lends itself to higher retention rates. I'm here and I'm actually leading the program. And I'm actually very happy and proud to do that because this program really fosters a community of like-minded individuals, especially new to the district. That can be scary to start a new district and not know anybody. So this program really builds that capacity and that community, almost like a mini PLC, but just if you're new to the district. And I still actually remember who I was sitting with in that program, and I never taught with them at the same site. So it's a good opportunity to meet and develop relationships across the district. When we look at the program impact, this is the 3-year data that we have. And as you can see, the graph, we consistently have high ratings of relevance and helpfulness to teacher practice, above 80% with ratings of 4 or 5. But more recently, we're trending at the 89%, which is something to largely celebrate because it's just showing the growth and advancement of the program itself based on the regular feedback that we collect from participants and always trying to think with a growth mindset to enhance. Even though we've been doing well, how do we do better, right? And so based on one of our participants' comments, this really summarizes the program really well. There were so many successful pieces to this, it's hard to single out any. I really appreciate the overall structure of each day and the mix of community, thinking, discussion, and action. The focus on applying everything to our own practice, often with helpful prompts towards specificity, made it so that even content I've seen before felt useful. And with that, I will pass it on to Sammy.
So we have a really great problem, and that is that we do such a good job at retaining teachers that we have a really big group of very experienced teachers working in San Mateo Union High School District, which means that we need to have a way of meeting their professional learning needs. And several years ago, we piloted and we finally adopted the instructional coaching program, in which we have trained instructional coaches work with teachers who are on full evaluation once every 4 years, where they specifically engage in cycles of inquiry focused on professional SMART goals that are anchored in the California standards for the teaching profession. And this program it's important because the most effective form of professional learning that you can provide an experienced teacher is a knowledgeable peer to help prompt and guide reflection on practice and to find entry points into thinking, what is it about my instruction that I could be doing even better? Which students can I continue to meet their needs? I picked 2 different indicators. And again, we evaluate the program on a bunch of measures, and these are just 2 highlights. The top right, this represents 3 years of actually certificated evaluation system data. And what I want to point out here is if you look in the 23-24 school year, we see an increase in the number of our teachers who are achieving accomplished or exceeds on their evaluation ratings. And has something that has been steadily increasing over those 3 program years. The other indicator that I think is really valuable to share is this comes from a feedback survey where we ask them to tell us, how well was your instructional coach able to facilitate learning focused discussions? And 88% of the respondents gave their instructional coaches a 5 on that, which means they really value having this peer one-on-one form of professional learning to help them dive into practice. On the right-hand side, that PGP stands for professional growth plan. And I want to be really specific that we do have teachers who do not work with an instructional coach. They might be pursuing some other form of professional learning or certification at that time. And this is feedback on their administrators. That is really high rating as well. Our administrators are also providing learning-focused conversations with teachers. The reason why I want to point out these two particular bars is there is a value add when a teacher is working with a knowledgeable peer on improving their instructional practice. And I think that this quote really sums up just about everything an instructional coach can do. My coach helped gather really meaningful student data about specific student participation. While she observed my teaching, she had good ideas for how to adapt my rubric. After I ran into some problems with it, she helped me identify that I was most interested in promoting and measuring equitable whole class discussions as my main focus, and she provided excellent questions and reflections during our coaching cycles that helped me to grow as an educator. She was an awesome thought partner and coach during my evaluation cycle this year. I am now going to pass it over to Marlo.
So professional learning is a huge umbrella. And so when we think about professional learning by context, we have to define that situate it based on the relevance to the context of our educators. So that could be like your site, that could be your content, your role, and even the changing context overall. So we're going to start with site professional learning. And a lot of site professional learning happens within the context of a PLC collaboration, for example, or embedded professional afternoons, or learning in the afternoons at least once a month on a Wednesday. But some of our sites actually engage with it more regularly, even bi-weekly. But for the purposes of this particular presentation, we're going to focus on the site professional development days, which happen in August, October, and just recently, January, after our large event. So who is in charge of this and who is developing the professional learning input and relevant, meaningful content for our educators? Well, I want to uplift our wonderful and phenomenal TOSAs that is our MTSS coordinators, our PD coordinators, and their respective teams, because a lot of them work with their team administrative teams to develop these professional learning moments at sites. And so what do they do? Well, they have to identify their key areas aligned with their site goals. Oftentimes, this is aligned to the WAS goals. And so it's data driven, also using student academic data, social emotional data, and behavioral data. So I could look like a variety of different professional learning all across the district because we all have unique sites and demographics that live at our respective sites. But why is this important? We have to be willing to be adaptable and support the education of all of our students and the learner's reality situated, which we have very different communities in all the 10 schools that we represent. When we look at my next slide, this is the program impact. So this is a celebratory slide. And while we look at the graph on the left, and we could see very consistently high ratings of our educators saying that there's relevance and effectiveness at their site professional development days, I do think it's actually minimizing the amount of emotional, creative labor that it takes to develop these very meaningful professional learning days to fill the buckets of all of our educators and all the contents that they represent. So over the past 3 years, they've been really courageous and intentional on inviting their learners' reality and really trying to augment and offset that predictable outcomes that we see over and over. But the past 3 years, what's been very, very specific and intentional is how do we invite student voices and their humanity to help drive these professional learning days? So that looks like student panels, student narratives, student feedback and artifacts, all different ways. It's wonderful to witness. And if you've ever been to a site PD day, it's just like, you can't now look at a demographic of students as a number. You see them in their full humanity, and we see the courage and the expertise it's taking to do that and to create meaningful experiences at site. And so I'll just read the top comment to as a participant at sites, they would say it was really good to review the learner's reality and the instructional framework, especially within the context of our neurodiverse students and the experience of our children of staff. That is really remarkable to be that specific and understand site data and then pair it with actual learning that could impact directly the students in classrooms. So lots to celebrate there. And with that, pass it back to Savvy.
So we also offer professional learning within context from the district office across the district. And these kind of broadly fall into three buckets. We have the thematic cross-content district PD days that many of you were able to attend in January. We also are able to offer content area or role-specific PD throughout the year. And then also what I like to call responsive professional learning, or professional learning that is in response to an emerging or urgent need of our educators. So I'm going to start with our January 27th PD Day. This year, our theme was Humanizing Pedagogy, the framework for our path forward. And humanizing pedagogy is an approach that centers the whole child in the education experience. This approach values the learner's identity, their lived experience, their cultures, and it sees those things as assets to the learning process. Additionally, it anchors the learning experience in the dignity and authentic experience of each individual and really works to make sure students are seen, valued, and heard as part of the education process. So we start our January 27th PD Day with a wonderful, for those of you who were there, a wonderful opening event hosted by our instructional lead team members, and really wanted to uplift the dreams of our students and educators that we all share and have in common around our work with the framework. When we put the professional development day together, we want to provide, it's conference style, kind of like what you experienced at CSBA. We want to provide our educators and administrators with options around the types of workshops they would like to attend. And sometimes an educator or administrator will pick a workshop on a topic that is brand new to them. They're like, this is an area where I need to learn. And other times they're going to pick a topic. They're like, you know what? This is something I haven't had a chance to dive into, or it's been a while and I need to refresh. And sometimes they pick a workshop because they want to reinforce an important practice. On the left-hand side, we have a graph that shows the proportion of external and internally led workshop sessions over the past 3 years. And in response to the board's request during our last 2 PD presentations, we have worked really hard to find a balance of our internal and external presenters. The advantage of an internal presenter is that these are teachers and administrators who are close to the problem of practice. They know the students, they often know the school site context, and they can help build collaborative conversations and discourse and structures with other teachers who have shared or similar problems. So they offer insight into the context you can't get with an external presenter. However, external presenters are able to provide us with fresh ideas, new ideas, emerging academic research, and they're important to include as part of the process because they help to prevent this kind of myopic lens around what we think good instruction should be. On the right-hand side, you can see that all of our sessions were well rated, whether they were internally led or externally led. Participants, 90% gave them a 4 or 5 out of 5. Additionally, our participants, they appreciated the variety that was available to them. They also appreciated having what I would call supported collaboration time in the afternoon to meet with colleagues and PLC members to talk about what they had learned during the day and how they can apply it. We also have responsive professional learning, and I think probably the example that you are most familiar with was during COVID-19 when we had to figure out how to get all of our teachers ready to address distance learning in a very short period of time. That is what responsive professional learning is. It needs to pivot, it needs to be flexible. And I think our current example of that is our multilingual learner support cohorts, where we have offered 4 different cohorts of universal design for learning and secondary constructing meaning in order to help our teachers better meet the needs of multilingual learners in their classroom. And as you can see, our program, we've had 75 teachers who have now gone through these cohorts, and 92% of them are providing these workshops a 4 or a 5 out of 5 in terms of effectiveness. And I think the top quote summarizes their experience well. I appreciated the humanizing approach. It helped frame language as a bridge rather than a barrier. Special shout out to our facilitators modeling how to engage in a non-limiting way to this framework. We do also provide content area specific professional learning, but this varies greatly year by year. And it can look like a whole bunch of different things, everything from textbook selection and adoption to the workshop sessions that we do offer during our district PD days that align to different content areas. I'm going to pass it over to Marlo to share celebrations.
So there is lots to celebrate when we look at professional learning across the entire district. We do want to think about whether you're a new teacher, you're an experienced teacher with a coach, you just got here to the district, you're going to a district event, or you're going to a site event. The impact data across all the board is really just affirming the structures that we put in place to continue to be flexible, to continue to produce relevant and meaningful learning for our educators. So that's something to be really celebratory about, and just, wow, I love it because it's actually like uplifting our TOSAs, our site leaders, just really being intentional on how we're pouring in and investing in our teacher leadership and our teachers in general. The second bullet is just also highlighting just the growth and investment in our internal capacity to offer more internal expertise and actually foster collaboration and trusting and meaningful relationships among each other, collegial relationships. And then the final one is really seeing how the instructional framework is taking shape at our sites by our TOSAs and by their planning teams. That's a real testament to student voice and that intentionality point that I was saying. Like when you invite students to the table, it really changes everything. And it really helps us recenter our focus and what they want and what they need in classrooms. And I love being able to say that. So those are some celebrations and surprises.
As always, take feedback and growth and opportunities for reflection and improving our program very, very seriously. One of the areas we know that we need to continue to support with is school sites' implementation of the instructional framework. San Mateo Union High School District, like many districts across the state, the United States, continues to look for ways to close the opportunity gaps for historically and currently underserved student groups. And we're trying to do this through Tier 1 instructional practices. The principles of the instructional framework provide research-based guidance and specific examples of what it looks like to help close that gap. The most salient example I can think of, or most specific, would be we often see in student panorama data that students' sense of belonging and connectedness to school is not where we want it to be. We also know that that is one of the biggest indicators for a student's academic, behavioral, and social emotional success. The principle of trusting and caring relationships is a way in for teachers to see what specific strategies or practices could I use as an educator to help build relationships with my students, to help build a classroom community so that they feel like they belong at school. And in doing so, we can improve their academic, social, emotional, and behavioral outcomes. And we know that we need to continue to support our school site professional learning teams in realizing what that looks like at their school site based on their student and community context. The second area that we know we need to grow is we have to continue to build teacher leader capacity. We want our PD TOSAs, our MTSS TOSAs, and coordinators to have improved self-confidence and effectiveness around their instructional leadership, because we know this will lead to stronger professional learning outcomes, higher rates of retention of teacher leadership positions, and really big impacts on school climate and culture. This means we need to make sure that they have a whole another set of skills. In addition to being amazing classroom teachers, what does it look like to be able to lead large and small group facilitation? How do I design learning for adults? It's distinctly different than designing learning for adolescents. And what kind of instructional leadership development do they need so that they understand how to navigate spaces and change at their school sites? And finally, we also need to explore structures that are going to best support our content and role alike teachers in implementing the instructional framework. We see frequently in the feedback and more increasingly requests for more specific examples that are rooted in content. The most practical example I can give you right now is that math teachers are frequently asking, what does relevant and meaningful content look like in my Algebra 1 class? What does it look like in my pre-calculus class? The instructional framework provides guidance on how to build relevant and meaningful learning experiences for students in the classroom. We need to both look at what does it mean to develop the capacity and expertise of math teachers and math teacher leaders to do that and in other content areas. But we also need to take a hard look at our organization and identify gaps where we might need to fill with some external expertise. Those are our areas for growth and celebrations, and we really appreciate you taking the time. We are happy to answer any questions.
Board have any comments, any questions? Trustee Land.
So first of all, thank you for the presentation. I just want to compliment your division, your group, for the vision and investment that you have. I mean, this has been ongoing, and I've really been like a fan of what you do and the investment that we've done. And as a district, I want to support it because I really feel like we're putting money into things that I think are very worthwhile. And when we talk about budget cuts, I hate when we even think about this area, because it's what I really loved about the presentation is you talked about the life of an educator, you know, the different forms, because we're not all alike. You're either one stage or another of PD, and it looks very different. And so, you know, talking about the peer coaching and the coaching methods that we've been using over the years with the evaluation process is, to me, such forward thinking that now I think it's becoming the norm for people to really look at. But years ago, we were the visionaries to say, let's do this. And you have really developed it deeply over years. Now getting into student panels and getting the students at the center of the PD is just amazing. I think the more we do that, I think discussions about curriculum and should we teach X versus Y, and listening to the comments earlier, what it really is the kids are the center, the students are the center, and how do we make that relevant to them and part of their experience to really enrich their learning. You know, I really commend what you guys are doing with the PD. I also want to take a little nod to the UDL. I think this is the way to go. Universal design for learning has to be the way to really think of lesson planning from now on. You know, we're really looking at things in a very different way, and this is the way to capture it. And I can see that you're really trying to get that either not just at the site level, but across the district. I like your ideas of growth, because that my one question before we got to the end was, what's next? What's our evolution? Because nothing should be static. It's like, what's the next big thing? And, you know, I like how you touched on, you know, the capacity of leaders, But I really want to focus on number 3 for a second, because I really think, and this is a hard question that I have, in my own school, for middle school, we want some sort of collaboration and connectedness in our school so that all the humanities teachers or all the math teachers are kind of on the same page. They don't have to be exactly on line in chapter and verse, but in the same context, what's going on and what's the expectation. Because I hate the difference of, I want teacher X because teacher Y doesn't do dot, 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 dot. And it's a hard thing to deal with, because you want to have independence and you want to have, creativity, but by the same token, you want to have similarity and connectedness and collaboration. So how I see number 3 is that struggle in some ways. So can you talk a little bit about that? What are your thoughts?
I think that would be number 4.
Okay.
And maybe that's the longer term work. I think that you have a partner, and maybe many partners in this room, and trying to understand what is the best approach to supporting that community of practice, collaboration, and work. And I 100% agree with you. There is this tension between how do we honor and respect the individual teacher's pace and autonomy, and yet at the same time, how do we create a structure that can allow teams of teachers to engage in discourse, learn from one another, so that ultimately they're all leveraging each other's best practices. Like, that's gold standard, for sure. But it is a work in progress for us. And I think if we were to take an honest assessment, we also have those collaborative communities at very different points in the spectrum. And it's sometimes, you can have a PLC that has decades of experience in it, and sometimes it's very new. So when we figure it out, we will let you know.
Well, thank you very much, really.
Any other comments, questions? Student board members?
I just wanted to share a quick comment to, again, like Trustee Land, thank you, because at my experience, I go to Aragon and I've personally loved every single teacher I have. And I think at some level, that's a reflection of the work that you're doing. And also, I want to echo Trustee Land's comment about sort of standardized curriculum between teachers. From a student perspective, it can be a little bit weird or even sometimes frustrating for students if they're the same class as someone else. But for example, one teacher gives a lot more coursework, or one teacher's curriculum focuses more heavily on one subject than the other. And we also recognize that's how teachers are able to express themselves. That's their creativity. But again, moving forward, if there's a way that we can sort of balance out the two, I think students would really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Jacobson?
Hi, yeah, I also wanted to thank you for the presentation, and I think you guys saw me there at the PD day, so I wanted to share my positive comments that I also really appreciate the conference style format. I think the teachers really appreciate having that variety and choice and agency. And there was a variety. I think there was something for everyone. And I know that in the past, I think teachers have hesitated to come to PD day, maybe if it was kind of a one size fits all type program. And I think everyone was able to find something that was relevant to their needs. So good job. I also really appreciated the opportunity myself to interface directly with teachers and hear about the struggles that they're having in the classroom. And I was really moved to hear how personally they talk about and think about each student and how they care about the success of their students. And this was especially true in the workshop that I attended about supporting ML learners in the standard classrooms. I want to compliment Adam Faber for his thoughtful presentation and his ongoing support for teachers in this regard. He included a recorded interview, like you were saying about the students being at the center. It was a recorded interview with a student who was new to the standard program. And it was really eye-opening to see his learner's reality So thank you for that. I also attended a session on critical consciousness, since this is the segment of the instructional framework that I have the most questions and maybe concerns about, which probably doesn't surprise you, but the workshop I attended confirmed my concerns, which mirror the concerns that I have about ethnic studies in the way that it's rooted in the ideological framework of Paulo Freire. And I think I've kind of expressed these concerns before when the instructional framework was initially presented, but I don't really feel that the board has had an opportunity to engage in those discussions. I know it never came, we approved the instructional leadership team to create this framework, and I don't know that it's standard practice for the board to approve something like that, but it never did come to our approval, and we've gone forward with it, but I might be just speaking alone. I don't know how my other board members feel about it, but I have still have some questions and concerns and discomfort with certain aspects of the instructional framework. I'm not sure the best way to move forward with those.
If I could just jump in,
Mhm.
On future board agenda items, we're bringing instructional framework back for discussion with the board on May 8th. So that's been in future agenda items for further discussion.
Okay, thank you.
I have some comments. I really like over the years how PD days have evolved. I did like the centering it more around humanizing the lesson plans and humanizing what the students are teaching, learning and things like that. I think I was in the same class with Randall, also the critical consciousness one. And I actually really enjoyed it because in talking about historical context, it was really interesting to see how each of us have a different experience. Yet, we can agree that there are certain things that we have to pay more attention to. I also really liked that we did connect the lessons to a specific literature from Pablo Freire. It's important because even some of that literature we've read before and in just in school, and it just like seeing it modeled in that form is really interesting to me. But I don't know, I guess my question is, in terms of approving certain lessons, like how do we do that without being in operations? Like, are we able to approve certain curriculum or certain types of PD, I guess, lessons and things like that? I don't know. We haven't explored that yet.
So it's absolutely within the board's purview to approve curriculum. Yes, yes, yes. And textbook adoptions and things like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to lesson planning and instructional practices, not typically, especially because there is no one size fits all when it comes to instructional practices, as discussed, described, commented on. And in some respects, we're trying to bring to the table or bring to teachers best practices, researched best practices, what we're seeing from our colleagues, not just here in San Mateo Union, but also in neighboring districts or districts where they're seeing a lot of success. That's important too. So it's not typical that boards or trustees would approve instructional practices. I think part of the point of this and bringing instructional framework to the board for discussion is to have more eyes and ears and feedback, and to help the board have a better understanding of those instructional practices that are happening across the district, and what we as a leadership team are trying to do or proceed with in order to move the needle of better academic success for our students. And I think one of the things that Sabi brought up was this idea of students feeling connected and included. It's so important because it then connects to attendance. It then connects to connection with teachers and paying attention and engagement. And, it just flows on and on. I think we can all probably as adults speak to times when we didn't feel connected to our schools or our teachers and how challenging that was for our own learning. And that's one of the things we're trying to combat. So.
Yeah, no, thank you. And with that said about the students connecting, I wrote down a quote that they had said in the workshop we went to. It's anything, it says, we read the word to read the world. And so that definitely makes me understand how to better connect with each other and then with the students, because if we understand some of the things that they're experiencing, then we'll be able to teach them a little bit better, right? And so, yeah, that's what I did enjoy about that. There was another class that I with someone that's sitting back there, but that was really great. We talked about like sometimes we don't know what we don't know. There was a I'm sorry, today I'm really tired. It's been a long day. There was a picture of like a fishbowl, and the fish doesn't always know they're a fish, right? That they're living in water. And so it's like the way that things were explained was really, it was really easy to explain if you hadn't thought about things like that before. And so I did like the, almost like the patience there was around helping people understand. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So thank you.
Trustee Chavez.
Trustee Griffin, I want to thank both of you for your presentation. I think it's great. And I wanted to apologize that I couldn't attend the one on January 27th, but in a funny way, I absolutely knew that was PD Day because a couple of parents texted me because they wanted to check in. They thought their kids were just joking, that there was no school. So I said, yes, the website on all of our school sites tells you about PD Day, but so I thought that was funny when that happened. But I did attend the one in the fall, and I absolutely love the fact that our staff has a multitude of topics to go to here. Like you said, it's like a conference, sort of like our CSBA AEC. We have various topics we can go depending upon what we're interested in. So I think that's great. And I'm really happy to see that, and we've talked about this before, we have internal and external presenters. So I didn't forget, we talked about this. Is it about 50-50? Would you say it's about 50% internal or in external, or more so on the internal? Because I think that's awesome.
Mhm.
More so on the internal?
Yes,
Or
as you
50-50?
can see from 3 years ago,
Yeah.
it was 100% external.
External, right.
And then it like slowly, by intention,
Yes.
on-ramped, and we invested in our internal capacity. And now it's more like 50-50.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to what Trustee Lynn was leading to about the item number 4. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. It's excited. This is exciting.
Sorry,
No, it's
giving you
great.
more work.
It's also more than just PD Day. Like you said, all year long, there's professional development. So thank you for that.
Slide 18, I was going to ask about it, the mix. Okay, the thing, and I think the board had a concern years ago about the amount of external consultants we hired in the budget. And it's good to see that we've kind of gone away from 100%. I'm wondering, have we maxed out, or do we see a point where we max out in terms of staff, where we can rely on staff to support professional development and the elimination of, are continuing to reduce the use of outside consultants?
I really think that depends on, that's sort of the responsive professional learning piece. When you see the 100% external presenters, that was the first PD Day we had had since the pandemic.
Mhm.
And so if we were to go back into a time machine, we have done a lot of different things with combinations of external and internal presenters in the past. But the pandemic kind of put us in this place where we needed to reset. And a lot of educators were kind of, and maybe even still like coming back to what is the reality of teaching and learning. And for a couple of years, they were trying to figure out, how do we support kids who have not been socialized for over a year in classrooms? And so it wasn't even building the plane while flying. It was building the plane while flying and realizing what you needed was a helicopter. And so like, I just want to point that out. Like we haven't always been there. And I don't think that there is a perfect blend. I think it depends on what it is that we are trying, like what our objectives and goals are. If it's really very new, and we don't have a lot of internal expertise, we do need to bring in external experts. But as we increase our internal expertise, we rely on the external experts less and less over time.
Can I just, I just want to say something. As an educator, I find our board, how we do things, like you talk, then you talk, then you talk, very difficult. I know it's supposed to be formal and parliamentarian, but what Randall said earlier about connectedness and about how it's so important to know after the COVID experience, how things have changed, not only for students, but for teachers. And if you connect the two conversations, we are really different than what we were before. I've been in education many years, and it turned us over and under and all over the place. And it questions who we are as an entity and as a system. And I think that's good and bad in some ways, but I think you're really both bringing up some very important points, which I think is strong in our district, is we have to work on student connection. We have to think about the teachers and how it's going to impact their future and what they believe in and where we need to go. So I just want to compliment both groups and try to tie it together a little bit.
Thank you. Any more comments? Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, construction.
Not this evening.
Okay, Division of Human Resources,
Yeah.
consent agenda.
We have the consent agenda of personnel actions and an MOU for a internship program in our nutrition department this summer.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda for HR.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move on to personnel actions.
We have the personnel actions addendum and one recognition mentioned earlier. Charles Bissell, our teacher at Hillsdale High School, submitted his retirement after 30 years exactly in the district, effective at the end of the school year. Recommend approval of the actions.
Any questions or comments?
I make a motion to approve the addendum.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there public comment?
My apologies, President Griffin. We do have two hands up. I'm not sure if it was a comment to the presentation or not. They were up, but I'm just not clear if that was what they're for. So if you want to finish this item, and then I can bring them in and see.
Finish it.
We can finish with the motion and the vote, and then
Okay.
I can bring them in.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bringing in Ravid is the name. Okay, Ravid, if you can please turn on your camera and unmute. And my apologies, if you can let me know what your comment was in regards to.
Hello, my comment was in regards to Trustee Jacobson. I didn't get a chance to speak before.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. We had finished that comment and we had already finished our 20 minutes. I thought you were for the presentation.
I see.
I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Stephen Ma. Stephen Moff, will you accept the invitation? We can go on, President. They are not accepting the invitation.
Okay, we did the consent agenda and we actually are
Did
moving.
one. We did the addendum. We're on T2.
Okay.
Okay, the second item, yeah,
Yes.
it's the recommendation, 2 recommendations for revision to the 24-25 administrator manager salary schedule. I'll summarize the recommendations. The first revision would be to the individual salary level of the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. On August 11th, 2022, the board approved a temporary individual salary level for this position because the incumbent was earning a higher salary than the maximum on the salary level at that time. This higher salary was based on the district's prior superintendent recommendation of a salary in excess of the maximum salary level. This disparity has continued simply because the position has received the same annual raise percentage as all other district positions. However, this school year, 24-25, should be the last year for this arrangement due to the upcoming retirement of our current Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. The district recommends that this maximum salary, the maximum salary change to salary schedule level 10 in order to comply with the CalPERS salary schedule requirements of publicly posted salary schedules. That's the first revision. The second revision is based on the workdays of our combined position, the bridge principal and the manager for academic support programs. This is our only combined management positions, and each of those positions has different workdays, 1/214 and 1/221. So the combined position equates to 218 workday calendar, and we have to have, for CalSTRS, we need to have the exact workdays on the salary schedule. So in order to avoid a potential CalSTRS issue for this person, the district recommends the addition of a new salary level, level 8, for the combined position of bridge principal and academic support programs manager of 218 workdays.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
we got a motion. We have a
I'll
second.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the revised 24-25 classified salary schedule.
Yes, so the last board meeting, the board approved the annual classified reclassification committee's recommendations, and this salary schedule just incorporates those approved changes.
Any discussion by the board? Any questions? Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
The last issue is the non-reemployment resolution. Each year, the district thoroughly reviews the performance and conduct of all probationary teachers and makes a determination as to whether or not the employment relationship will continue into the following school year. The decision not to continue an employment relationship is called a non-reelect, and after a multifaceted, in-depth examination this year, the district has 1 non-reelect probationary teacher. So the official step in this process is a non-reemployment resolution. So the district recommends the approval of this resolution of non-reemployment for 1 probationary teacher.
Any discussion? If not, is there a motion and a second?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Division U,
No, we'll move on to board
Okay.
operations. Thank you.
Division V,
Move on to X.
No,
X.
not tonight.
W.
Thank you. No, not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm just.
Yeah, you're
going-
good. Keep
U,
going.
V,
going
W.
down.
Going through
X.
the alphabet pretty quickly.
Yeah, board operations.
Board operations, so these are the legislative updates that are recommended by the CSBA. They would be for your consideration and move to consent next meeting.
Anybody have any comments at this point? Any
I move-
questions?
Oh, go
I have a
Trustee
question.
Jacobson.
In the guide sheet under board bylaw 9240 on board training, it says that governing board members have to complete ethics training. Is that something that we would do together as a board or individually, or is there a specific course we take?
I suppose there's a variety of ways you can do that, but we'll have a course this summer through our usual training modules for the board to take the ethics training. So we contract out with Target Solutions, and they're a statewide company that has all the trainings, and they'll have this with this new law.
Okay.
So let me just make an additional comment to that, because I think it's a really good question.
Mhm.
You as a board have choices on how you want to engage in that training. The training is required now. You can do it through what Dr. Black just described, which is individual online training.
Mhm.
Or the board could direct district staff to bring a trainer in person as a group. It just has to be done, and there are certain modules that have to be covered as part of the law. So right now, the way we're operating is almost like the simplest, which is working through our consultant to develop the online modules. But if the board wants to think about that or discuss it and come back to district staff in a different way or want the training done differently, just let us know.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will move to approve
I
the,
think we just move it to.
It just moved to consent.
right, oh, that's right, thank you.
You know, I just finished renewing my CPA license and I had to take ethics, and every time you review your license, you take ethics, and it's an online course.
I have to take 8 courses every year for all the mandated reporting. Don't even get me started.
No, I didn't.
You know, HR department knows.
I
Oh
have
my
courses
God.
every quarter I take with my employer. Ethics and compliance is one of them as well.
Well, I
Yeah.
had
Thank you,
110
Nick.
hours of professional development over the
There you
last
go.
2 years.
Right.
So anyway, does anybody, we'll go on to Y, future items?
We've got one more, admin regulation 3311.1.
Sorry,
That's okay. Uniform public construction cost accounting.
No question.
I found that fascinating.
I'm sure you did.
Consent for next time, right?
Yeah.
Is it the same thing?
Yes,
This one's-
so
For approval, it looks like.
this is the every 5-year update to the amounts under the uniform cost accounting, which the district has
Review and
approved
discuss.
many years ago. But every 5 years, we come to update the amounts that are allowable under the Uniform Cost Accounting Act.
This is admin regs. These are
Correct.
admin regs. So does this similarly go to consent, or do we vote on it separately?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it says review and discuss.
Consent.
It'll
Okay,
go
well,
to
that's,
consent.
yeah, that's,
Okay,
Because admin regs and board policy do the same thing.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I'm sorry.
sorry, maybe the language should have been a little different on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest we move this to consent.
okay.
So in case the board, because it's late, and if the board wants to have any additional questions, we could always talk about it at our next meeting before approval.
Thanks.
so were those thresholds increased by a COLA or something? Because they just moved everything on the bidding and the,
Yeah, every 5 years, similarly to developer fees, every 2 years, every 5 years, the CUPCA thresholds were included. They actually were, we approved in 2019, was that were 2020 was the last time we did it of the 2019 amounts.
thank you. Okay, now, why? Any future board items? Hurry.
I do. So considering what most of our meeting started at the beginning, and until today, I wasn't aware of it. I think the words of our union president were very damning. I heard lots of comments from constituents and people who participated in the conference on ethnic studies. So keeping an open mind and looking into interesting dialogue, I would like to pursue an investigation of what was accused, and I'd like us to talk to our attorneys regarding this issue, and if there should be censure or there should not, or is it relevant or is it not? So I want to open this dialogue as a conversation. I'd like that on one of our agenda items, either in closed session or in open session, depending on what the attorneys say.
It probably cannot be in closed session.
Okay, then an open session, whatever. Yep.
I'm not, I'm just thinking of, it's not a specific.
Right, I
yeah.
didn't know.
No, that's
Again,
okay.
I'm keeping it open, and again, I want a dialogue that's open, and then we can and look into this because, yeah.
Any other items?
I just want to remind the board that we have a board study session on April 17th on our DLAC presentation. It's just a reminder.
Is that a Thursday?
I don't know. Yes. Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's just a reminder. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And the other thing, I think we were fine tuning, the vice president and I were on the phone with our consultant to do our 360 and our board self-evaluation. And we figured out that we really should look at the self-evaluation of the board governance after the end of the school year. Just because the stuff we need to do before the end of the school year, up to and including goals, we need to work on that.
Mhm.
And then we will circle back sometime, probably after school starts, to actually work on our self-evaluation.
Yep.
So you can change that.
Okay, we will.